One of the questions I typically ask traders who come onto the show is, why trading? You know, it's high risk, many people fail. Why trading? And you think, well, it's obvious, you know, money. But actually, one of the things that comes up in almost every conversation is the lifestyle. Is, you know, if you can make it work, it's the freedom to do a job, choosing your own hours, firing the boss, as they say, avoiding the commute, avoiding politics. It's just you and the markets. And I think many traders who carry on trading, they love that aspect of it. There's a kind of purity there, there's a simplicity. My guest today, Troy Noonan, has been doing this for 30 years. He even calls himself the backpacking trader. He's run live trading rooms, he's written books on trading, he's created systems and therefore software, and continues to trade every day, helps a lot of people as students and what have you. And he's here today to talk about his journey and also to show you how he trades with his system. So we cut to his platform for about 5 minutes or so you get an idea of how he thinks and how he trades. So here's Troy. Enjoy the show, enjoy the episode, and if you are enjoying A Trader's Life, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. Thanks. Troy, how are you doing?
Great, Nicholas. How about yourself?
Yeah, okay. You've just come back from another travel?
That's right. I'm still kind of getting through the jet lag, but it was a great trip. A little bit of Spain and Portugal.
Yeah, now you're back home in California, right?
Yes, the Napa Valley.
Cool. So tell me, how did you get into trading? Why? Why trading?
Wow. It's going back several years, like 33 years maybe. You know, I received a brochure in the mail, and it just came at the right time. I was in this business I was running, and it was killing me. I mean, I was always taught that being in a business was better than like having a job. But what it turned out to be was like many jobs, and maybe I was sleeping 3 hours a night. So the business was successful, but it was killing me. So when this brochure came in and I saw this concept that, hey, if this chart pattern happens, you could place a trade that could lead to some, you know, pretty profitable moves, that sparked my interest. And I started, you know, pursuing it and looking into it and learned a few patterns. And the first pattern I learned, which probably many of your traders already know about, is the head and shoulders, the very first one. First, I thought it was a shampoo, you know, what's that got to do with trading? And one of my earliest trades was shorting the British pound based on this head and shoulders pattern that I saw. And this was before the days of the euro. In fact, I was getting paper charts in those days in the mail, and I'd get them on Mondays, and then I'd fill in the price bars each day with the closing prices out of the Wall Street Journal. And so I learned how to just kind of manually build my charts, and that got me into the actual price action on a level it's hard to kind of explain. It's not quite the same now when you just pull it up on a computer monitor, you know. It's kind of like touching and tasting a recipe in the kitchen, you know. Anyway, I shorted the British pound and unwittingly got on the same move that infamously became known as the trade that broke the Bank of England. And this was before the euro. Like I said, I shorted against the dollar. I know he was shorting against all the major currencies like the Deutschmark and others. And so I took the several $1,000s that I made and backpacked through Europe for like 3.5 months. I had my business being run by a good, capable manager. And then I kind of established or learned about this level of freedom that I had never experienced before. And that trading gave me that early on. And I was bit by the bug. So that trip led me to South America not too much longer after, where I literally met my wife. And we're having our 30-year anniversary this year. So I always say, you know, George Soros made billions breaking the Bank of England. I made a wife and family. So, and the backpack trader was born, even though I didn't realize it at the time.
Say about that when you said, I'm off on my travels again trading, or did she go with you?
I mean, now it's life's changed to the point where we have access to the markets anywhere we go. So years after that was back in like 1992. And in 99, when the dot-com boom was booming and the internet cafes were popping up all over Western Europe, I was on another backpacking through Europe excursion, and I was hopping in and out of the new internet cafes everywhere I went, placing trades. And, with the dot-com boom, I thought I knew what I was doing, but all you had to do was fog a mirror and buy something, and you make money in those days. So still, it was an amazing experience. The internet was just starting to come into our lives, and I learned then a new level of freedom that you could pretty much trade from anywhere. And now the way it is like, have backpack, laptop, internet connection, can trade from anywhere. And that's kind of what I do. I just go all over. I could work anywhere. And it's great. Love it. The freedom is like nothing else.
If you can make it work, which you obviously seem to be achieving. So tell us about your system, how you developed your trading skills, and talk us through the evolution, if you like.
Early on in those days, after the dot-com boom was a dot-com bust. And so when you think you can make money just by buying anything, which was true at the time, that reversed. And I had to learn some hard lessons. I didn't give all my money back, but I gave back more than I cared to. And so I started seeking answers. And there was an early online trading firm, an education firm in those days, that was just starting to market themselves, called NetPicks. Maybe you've heard of them. And I became an early customer. And I used to interact with many of their other customers on their forums. And one day I got a phone call from one of the owners saying, hey, you really get this, and we like what you're saying to our other members. How do you like to join our team as our first trading coach? And that kind of threw me for a loop. And I almost declined the offer, because what do I know about trading coach? I'm not a trading coach. But then the thought occurred to me, if I accept, it's going to force me to become a better trader, because I can't be a good trading coach if I'm not a better trader. And that got me learning about methods and trading systems and structure and all these concepts. I had no idea how they could help or what they even meant. And now, with let's just say a month later, so I started calling a live trade room for them using one of their strategies. And for 18 straight years, I called live trades in a trade room for dozens, if not hundreds of people in the audience, hanging on my every word. What a crazy responsibility that was, right? And again, I accepted that challenge as another means to force me to become better at what I do, become a better trader. And over the first few years, I started recognizing certain patterns and ended up developing my first trading strategy. It was called the 7 Summits Trader in those days. And NetPicks marketed it around the world, sold it to thousands of people. And to this day, even though it was probably more than 15 years ago, I still get emails from people still using it. One thing I learned in those days was, maybe, I don't even know how I learned it now. I feel really fortunate I figured this out. But to create a strategy that's able to, what I call, dance with the market. It could literally self-tune it, it tunes itself up bar after bar. So it's this dynamic system. So it'll give you larger trades if the market calls for it, or smaller trades. And you end up developing a set of rules that you can then test and prove will make you money before you risk your money. And that gave me the whole next level of growth, where I really started to lean into the meaning of a good trade plan. And a trade plan, though, is different to many people, right? But for me, I had to define it, because as a trade room host and a trade coach for this growing trading education firm online, I had to create things that not only I could trade successfully, but that I could teach and that others could also learn. See, that's the trick. And that's the thing that I've discovered, and still to this day, it's still a problem. There's a lot of good strategies out there, a lot of people selling. It's really proliferated in our industry, right? There's so many people selling their ways of trading. But anyone can sell technique. Anyone can teach you how to paint by numbers, but that'll never make you an artist. So what I learned from my unique experience hosting a trade room and dealing with traders for all these years is not only to teach people good technique, a good strategy that you could just practice with repetition, but the other track of learning that I think is even more important is how to succeed with the techniques, the strategy. Because let's face it, painting by numbers doesn't make you an artist, and learning a concert piano scale isn't going to make you a pianist or a musician, right? You have to learn how to apply that and learn how to make music with it. And that's the metaphor. So much of what I focus on with my members and the people that join my programs is teaching them how to succeed, how to create a trade plan. There's a step-by-step process to do it so that you could prove. First of all, you have to prove it will make you money so that you could acquire the necessary belief in it to be able to place trades and follow it without struggle. Because as human beings, we make bad traders. We're not born to be good traders. You have to unlearn certain things.
Yeah. So how do you do that? What's your starting point? And talk us through it if you can.
I often do a training where I have people draw this line on a chart and we create these steps. I actually have one here because I just did a boot camp. And we have these steps that you follow. And the first step is basically you have to make some personal decisions about your situation. When you can trade, when you can't trade. Can you day trade? You have the time to do it. If not, maybe you should swing trade instead. You have to make some big decisions. What's your, how much capital do you have to trade with? That if you were to lose it all tomorrow, it wouldn't effectively change your life. That's really important because you don't want to trade from a position of fear, right? And so one of the things I try to teach early on is as human beings, we want to run away from uncertainty because it makes us feel insecure. And that represents a threat against our survival. So from a very primal point of view, human beings we're wired to be lousy traders. So you have to somehow transform into something else. And the main reason is because all trading happens at the right edge of the chart, and we're hoping something's going to happen in the future that's going to work out for us, but it hasn't happened yet. And that's what makes people do everything wrong, because of that feeling of a threat against your survival, that feeling of insecurity that we all feel when we place a trade, right? So you have to learn how to overcome that. And the way you do it is a step-by-step process of proving the trade plan. And you see it with a large enough sample set what the rules of this trade plan would produce going forward, leading up to today, for example, back testing, forward testing, all that. But then acquiring the belief and learning how to, this is the most important thing, is learning how to live with the good, the bad, the ugly, the great, a lot of mediocre, and still witness the equity in your account growing, because that's how you acquire the belief in the strategy and the trade plan. There's a random distribution to wins and losses. I don't care how good your trade plan is. There's going to be losing trades. So a lot of people make the mistake of trying to avoid losing trades or trying to fix losing trades, hoping that'll create winners. And that's just a foolish pursuit because 100% perfection doesn't exist in trading. And once you could surrender to that idea, you can instead lean on superior odds and it's a numbers game, right? You let the odds do the heavy lifting for you. And if you think of this, every trade is like a tree in your forest, right? But the forest is the value of your account. That's your equity. So do you want to be in the trees, running around, trying to dodge falling trees and not get crushed with no perception of the forest? Or would you rather be above looking down where you can look and see, hey, I could sacrifice a third of those trees because I'm able to grow my forest 2/3 larger as a result, right? And then you get the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You employ smart money management with power of compounding, start increasing your position size safely with a good risk formula. And that's how you can turn a $50 a day average net profit into a $10,000 a month income. It's through power of compounding and superior odds, like the casino.
So how do you define a good risk management strategy?
We usually say a good guideline to start with is to risk 2% of your trade capital on a proven trade plan trade, the next trade in your trade plan. My flagship program is called the CEO Trader Mastermind. And it's designed to transform someone from a person trying to trade, which is what we all start out as, and transform you into the CEO of your trading business. So instead of worrying about what happens with the next trade, instead of having an emotional attachment, which is a recipe for disaster, to the next trade, right? Being emotionally attached to the outcome of that trade. Your job as a CEO is to focus on running the trade plan that you've proven grows the account. Despite ugly that you live through, you get a lot of great also. And after you go through that enough times, when you don't have to reach for that bottle of Rolaids anymore, because the winners, the best trades follow the worst. If you just can stick with it, if you believe enough in what you're doing, you can. If you don't believe in it, you won't be able to, because you're going to run away from that threat that you're perceiving as a human being trying to trade, right? So we have to transform from person trying to trade into the CEO of your trading business is the goal. And that's what my program focuses on, the 2 tracks of learning a great strategy. I've come out with many more since 7 Summits Trader. One that we're still using, I use it to call our Forex alert service, is Counterpunch Trader. That came out over 10 years ago, and it's still working great today like it always has. We have Catapult Extreme, where the trades feel like they've been flung from a catapult. And my newest one is Cloud Control, which is a great day trading strategy. But the strategy is only as good as the trade plan that you create with it, that you go through these steps to acquire the belief in, so that you could trade it successfully, knowing it's going to get you to your financial goals if you just follow the rules and are patient enough to do it day in and day out. So from a backpack trader point of view, we don't want another job. We don't want to be sitting in front of the computer all day trading. I mean, some people love that, and that's fine. They can make that choice. But for me, I want to get in, get out, get done. It's a motto I learned with NetPicks. And the idea is that you have a trade plan, and you could often hit the goals of your trade plan a large percentage of the time with 1 or 2 trades. Like this week, one of my favorite trade plans, one of my favorite markets to day trade is crude oil. Crude oil futures is fantastic. And now, because it's always moving, right? And now they have a micro contract, so even people that aren't capitalized for the full contract can trade at 1/10 the size. So it's a really great market to day trade. And I've been using the same market with all my strategies. They work well. It's run a trade room for years and years. There's actually 2 trade rooms I have now that are using this. And this week, Monday, 2 trades. Power of quitting is what we call when we hit our goals. It empowers us to quit trading for the day. Took about an hour. Yesterday, 1 and done. Hit the goals at the very first trade. So in just a few minutes, done. And today, same thing. 1 and done. So the trade plan had 4 trades. It won 3 out of 4, but it won all 3 sessions. And the goal we have isn't necessarily winning every trade. The goal we have is to win most of our sessions with minimal and efficient trading. So if we can hit our goal at the very first trade, guess what? We're done. And we could just walk away, live our best life today, and come back and do it again tomorrow. So an hour a day or less for a good day trade plan. You could take that plan and duplicate it and have a second plan if you want to trade more. But another thing I always recommend is to think about creating a swing trade plan too. I call it, if you're going to trade stocks and options, you create a roster of stocks where each stock is its own trade plan that you've proven. And we use the stock trade setups to buy simple options as calls and puts, directional trades. It's really easy to do and simple to learn, not too complicated. And or use the same ideas with Forex, which is another great market to day trade, swing trade. You could day trade Forex too, actually. But swing trading is my preferred way to go with Forex as well.
Can you describe your strategy in a bit more detail? It's a little bit abstract at the moment. Can you give us even just one example? It could be crude oil. You say you like to trade that. What are you looking for? When do you get in? When do you get out?
A trade plan will typically have a start time. It'll be the same every single day. It'll be the same chart every single day. We're not hunting or fishing or looking or trying to, scan or whatever. And we're not what I call doing John Wayne trading, where you just shoot from the hip and hope you hit your targets. These are all trades that are part of a plan that's been tested and proven with rules. And when the trade shows up, what my custom indicators do is it'll show you the trade. You'll see the entry, a little symbol that's where you get in. It'll have your targets. It'll have your stop. The entire trade is planned from start to finish. Before you even get into the trade, you already know where your exit points are going to be. Like anyone can get into a trade, right? But knowing where to get out is always the challenge. But these are all pre-calculated targets that have a real high percentage chance of being hit. And the stop loss, of course, is in place so that we'll take a loss if it stops out. It's a minimal loss. We're controlling it. And so a typical goal of the trade plan would be to hit the second target and have a positive result. And if it happens on the very first trade, well, guess what? You're done, one and done. And when it gets to the first target, we typically are going to move our stop to break even plus one tick to help offset costs. So we have this interim step where we're trying to get to a break even position as quickly as we can while the trade's still developing. And so these are all built into the rules that we test and prove will grow our accounts, grow our forests larger and larger if we just run the plan.
You mentioned you have some software that you use to help you find an entry and an exit. Is that something you had made based on your own strategies? Where did you acquire that?
Exactly. I've been working with a programmer since the early days with NetPicks 15 plus years ago, probably closer to 20 years ago now. But he's learned how to interpret my abstract ideas and write the code to actually create the. Well, here's the basic concept: is to make it so it's not so abstract. The price action cannot hide from itself, right? It is what it is. No one can hide it. The price is moving, it's going up, it's going down, and it's reflecting human psychology, right? The overall collective wisdom or lack thereof of the market, all the participants, buyers, sellers, and those on the sideline that are coming in and going out, right? All the market participants. And so various things happen because human nature doesn't really change. You have price patterns that tend to repeat over and over and over. And certain patterns that happen so often that we now have a large enough sample set where we can learn what's likely to happen next. If this pattern occurs, just like that Head and Shoulders example, if this pattern occurs, this next thing is likely to happen. Doesn't mean it will, not 100%, but we don't need 100% to make money. We just need it to be likely to happen, right? So the odds are in our favor. When we can identify a pattern like that, we can create a trade plan, and that could turn into a trading business. And so what my strategies and indicators do, it focuses in on a specific chart pattern. And when it happens, it prints the trade for you so you can literally see it visually right on the chart. And now you have the structure you need and a tool that not only can you trade it without having to think, and it's just, you learn how to do it just by reflex, but you also have a tool that's so visual that now you can go back and see what happened over the last 120 sessions with this exact same price pattern. And you can learn to stack the odds on your side before you risk your money like this while acquiring the belief in it. That's the key. And there's another like a slogan or motto, something I learned early on in my early days that I've kind of borrowed it. I can't say I invented this idea, but I found it to really change. It changed my life and a lot of other of my members. And it's this idea: the immediate past can predict the immediate future with a high degree of accuracy. So what does that mean exactly? And I always test people on this when I'm doing these training programs. The immediate past is actually the chart pattern that just occurred, the one that we've already learned that we're looking for, that happens over and over and over and over in all markets and time frames so much that we can then determine what's likely to happen next, which is the immediate future. And the immediate future are the targets that are printed on the chart that we're predicting are going to happen, right? So the immediate past sets up a pattern, gives us a trade. We know the exact entry. We know these targets that we're after. And and then when we're wrong, we're going to stop out. But ultimately, it's right more than it's wrong. And that's why these trade plans have endured for so long. They've stood the test of time. And it's the whole idea of dynamically adjusting to market conditions. They're evergreen. They don't just stop working.
Do you prefer buying or shorting? Do you have any kind of preference?
I'm impartial because the strategies are resilient enough to just kind of go where the market's going. It's that whole idea the price action does what it does. We want to be able to make money if the market's going down or going up. So as far as I'm concerned, whatever the next trade is, if it's part of the trade plan that I've proven, I'm now running it like a CEO runs his business, then I don't want to interject myself and start, influencing the trade plan. The trade plans work in mysterious ways. I could tell you tons of stories where that just plays out over and over again, where thank goodness I had 2 losses, or I would have missed the third trade, which is like the mother of all trades type of idea, right? So the 2 losses and the big winner leads to a big winning session. If I would have hit my goal on the very first trade with a reasonable winner, I would have missed the big, huge mother of all trades winner, right? So it was good that there were 2 losses that day, for example. And that's what you have to learn, is that trade plans work in mysterious ways. We're not smart enough to know what's going to happen next. No one is. No one. It's not even about being smart. We just can't see into the future because the future hasn't happened yet. What we can do, though, is don't try to do that. Instead, focus on what's likely to happen based on a pattern that's occurred so often that we've been able to show this is likely to happen. And that makes for a great trading scenario. And if you just can learn to focus on that concept, your trading will just turn around and you'll finally start realizing why you're trading in the first place, right? That backpack trader lifestyle of freedom.
Are you always very disciplined with your risk management? I mean, will you always keep the stop loss where you put it in the first place? Will you ever move it for any reason?
The only way I'm going to move it is to lock in profit. I mean, either to go to break even and then start trailing. So we could go to multiple targets once we hit our first goal. If we have more positions, we can go try to get these other targets. And in the meantime, we're trailing. And we could even have an extra position just to trail to hit those home run trades, which happen. So all I'm doing is, I mean, it's all dots on the chart. I'm just following it because I've already learned. And I learned that this is like, imagine calling a live trade room when you've never done it before. And the curtain opens up and there's 186 people in the room. You've never called a live trade ever in your life. And all of a sudden now a trade sets up on the right edge of the chart. It feels uncomfortable. It doesn't look right. It's like any other type of trade you feel because you don't know what's going to happen next. And that whole idea of, oh no, what if I lose? What if it's wrong? Blah, blah, blah. And you try to second guess and maybe talk yourself out of it and this and that. That almost happened to me. And then these 4 words popped in my head at the last possible second. It saved my bacon. Basically, it set my career on the path it's been on. 4 magic words: lean on the system. Lean on the system. To be a professional, I just got to call the trade per the system, what it says, right? Otherwise, I'm an idiot. I'm going to get egg on my face. What if I don't call it and it wins? Stupid. What if I call it, it's the right trade, and it loses? I'm just being a professional doing my job, right? But that saved me. But those 4 words transcend all that because in the end, if you have a system you believe in, which is the whole point of the CEO Trader Mastermind, right, is you have to go through the steps properly to acquire the belief in something to prove it, where you can believe in it and then practice it and get really good at it and earn the rites of passage to finally start trading real money. It's a whole step-by-step process. I call it the trade plan hacking framework. And if you follow it step by step, you're going to be in the most advantageous position you could possibly be in to succeed.
How did you develop this for yourself? I mean, you talk about these plans and step by step and so on. How did you develop this process? Was it endless back testing, demo accounts, or just sheer experience?
Well, it actually came from another personal story. My wife in the early days of calling a trade room and stuff, my 2 young kids now, they were going to go back. She's from Venezuela. In those days, we were able to go to Venezuela. It's an amazing place. And so I was playing travel agent. I had to have a different travel. I was sending them back for the holidays. I was going to go too, but I had to come back early to work. I couldn't just be there as long as they wanted to be, so she could be with her family, right? And my young kids can learn that side of the family. So when I got to the airport, I realized that I forgot to pay for my own ticket. I paid for theirs, forgot to pay for mine. I thought I did. So guess who wasn't going to Venezuela, to the tropical paradise for the holidays? Me. So I went home depressed. And for the next 3 to 4 weeks, I could have just, not done anything. But instead, I decided I'm going to work on my first trade strategy idea based on what I'd learned from several years every day in a trade room, right? So I started developing these concepts, and that's how I created the 7 Summits Trader, which ended up being a huge success. but along the way, I learned the process of how to prove stuff and how to take a trade idea and create a strategy out of it. And then from there, create trade plans that work with the strategy. Because what I learned also was that I had all these people that they were interested in buying the strategy. I also had to figure out, well, how could I teach this to others in a way that they could understand it, be effective with it? That's a challenge too unto itself. And so I learned it. I mean, I just like everything else, I had to. And the first strategy was a big success. I had to follow it up with a couple years later with my second strategy, Trend Jumper, which ended up even being more successful. And then as I went one after the other, I just kept learning more and more and more and more. My most recent strategy, Cloud Control, that came out of an idea that I had that at that point I was doing my CEO Trader Mastermind, and I decided I do my best work when I'm traveling, and I happened to be in Colombia at the time. And I decided that I was going to create my new strategy, this idea I'd been fostering and kind of playing around with for a few years. I was going to finally turn it into a strategy. And I invited all the mastermind members in to look over my shoulder in a live virtual like Zoom room. And I, through 29 sessions, it's now known in my circles as the Colombian sessions, let people sit in while I created the new strategy, Cloud Control. And they learned the steps that I do to create a strategy. And then I ended up giving it to all the members too. So it was a really nice thing for them. And now it's a pretty successful strategy. In fact, one of my members who came in not knowing anything about trading at all, nothing, zero, is now using Cloud Control to host a trade room where he's trading his live accounts. And he's now kind of following in my footsteps from years ago, calling a live trade room with the strategy. So it's kind of interesting to see that.
Can you describe that to me at all? I mean, it sounds quite complex, but can you give me the...
Do you want me to show it to you? I mean, I could share my screen and show you what it looks like.
Yeah.
I could walk you through like the last 3 sessions, and you'll just see what I mean by how we were able to win. The trade plan was able to basically win the last 3 sessions.
Cool.
I'll go back to, and you know, the tariffs starting today and all the uncertainty of the world and people, again, it's the same thing. I mean, you get patterns that occur as a result of fear and greed and this and that. And I was looking back, I'll show you crude oil, but I was looking back a year ago today, and crude oil was trading in the exact same price range it is now. And if you go back a year prior, 2 years ago, it was also trading in the same price range, right? In that $70, $71 a barrel. So the world's changed a lot in those 2 years, but it still goes up, it still goes down, it still creates the same patterns. That part hasn't changed. So you have to learn not to overthink things, right? That's a big thing that most people do. So what was Monday? It was the 31st. So this trade plan starts at 8:50. Okay, tell me if you can see it.
Yeah, good.
All right, great. So this is a unique chart. It's a custom Renko chart. It doesn't have to be. It just happens to be a really clean chart to trade. And I'm going to show you the first trade of the trade session that came up. It starts at 8:50, right? And so by the time our first trade happened, it's right here on the right edge of the chart. And you can see it's identifying a specific pattern. I can't really explain what that is now. It's too complicated. You don't need to know that. It's what the indicators do. You can learn that, and you should. But for the sake of what I'm going to show you, the little plus sign here, that's your entry. And you have a target above, and there's actually more targets. They're just off the chart up here. You have all these targets that you can go for, depending on how many positions you're trading. This is a micro crude, so you could probably trade multiple positions depending on your capitalization. You could take some off at each of those targets. And then the stop loss is right here, right? You could see it. So when you click on the bar, the entire trade is here in the data window as well. You can see the stop, the entry, your targets, how much you're going to make in ticks to each of the targets. So target 2 is the primary objective, right? It'll make 27 ticks. So if that's a full crude oil futures chart, it would be $270. The micro chart is 1/10. So it's only $27, but it's 1/10 the size, and you could, of course, trade multiple contracts. It just puts it in perspective, right? So think in terms of one full contract is round numbers, $10 a penny, right, is what you make or lose depending on where the price goes. So you can see it's risking 23 cents, and you have a positive risk reward. You risk 23 to make 27 in this case, right, for this particular trade. And this trade's going to lose. So the first trade that happened on Monday, it triggers in, it comes up. Now, if we get to target 1, then the stop will move and lock in 1 tick. Okay. If it hits the little yellow dot between targets 1 and 2, that's when the trailer will kick in. It'll start trailing as well.
So when you say it's going to move, does that mean it moves automatically because your software is adjusting it?
It moves on the chart, but we're going to manually move the stop ourselves.
Okay.
Okay, because I'm not a believer in having robots trade for you. I'm a believer in doing it yourself. And you learn how, and it's not hard. Because otherwise...
These candlesticks, they remind me of Heikin-Ashi. Is that what it's based on?
No, well, Renko, it's Japanese. It means brick, and it's a range bar. It's not a Heikin-Ashi. It's a custom Renko. I mean, if you understand how Renko works, a custom Renko is, I think, better. I don't know if you want to go down that rabbit hole. I would just recommend Googling it. It probably explains it better than I can. But it's a very clean chart. It really shows the trends and the support resistance levels in a great way, and it's dynamic. So it's based on price action, not on time, but price action. That's the kind of chart I like to trade.
So is this provided for you by your broker? Is this some...
This is a TradeStation. This is a chart from TradeStation. So my strategies will work on TradeStation or NinjaTrader, and some of them will work on Thinkorswim charts, and some will work on MT4 charts. But TradeStation and NinjaTrader, I think, are best. And we do have automation. It can trade for you. We use the automation more for building trade plans and backtesting past data with swing trading. It's more valuable. So let me just walk you through really quick so we can just see how the sessions went. Gives you an idea. So this one comes down and it hits the stop. So the first trade of the week, loser, right? But the trade plan has you trading a certain amount of trades until your stop time or until you hit your goals. So you have to take a second trade. Remember, we're not worried about whether trades are winning or losing. As CEOs of our trading businesses, we're just running the trade plan, right? So now we're just waiting, and the second trade shows up right there. Now, we're already almost an hour into the session. So it's kind of a slow session on Monday. And it triggers in right there, and it comes up really nice, hits target 1. Notice that the stop went from here up to here. So visually, you could see it, right? It's kind of telling you exactly what to do. And then it comes up, and now it's starting to trail, hits the yellow dot, starting to trail. It has a specific method that it's trailing, and then it hits its target 2, and that was good for 28 ticks. The first trade lost 23 ticks. So at this point, if you're only trading one position, you're positive with a 5-tick gain. It's not a lot, but you win the session. And one of the things that we try to do is not impose what we need or want from the market. We want to take what the market wants to give us, right? In a dynamic way. So we might only make 5 ticks today, but then tomorrow we make a lot more. But what if you're trading multiple positions? If you're trading multiple, because it's a micro, maybe you're trying to get to targets 3 and 4 and 5 and maybe even trail. Well, this kept going and going and going and going and going. And that's what I mean by maybe it's good to lose the first trade because you then get a trade that hits a big winner, right? It finally stops out right here. They hit all those targets. And the risk reward ratios are pretty strong when you get to the bigger targets. You can see down in here. Gives you all the detail. It's all there for you. Everything you need.
Is the moving stop?
The moving stop, it's trailing a specific method, and it usually trails it by 2 ticks. But what it's trying to do is lock in profit while also keeping you in the trade. So it tries to find that perfect, tight wire level so that you could stay on as long as possible. That's the intention. This time it stopped out. Actually, it doesn't even stop out here. See, what happens is after the bar closes, then the stop moves. So it actually went even higher. It went all the way, it went all the way up to here. So that's a home run trade, right?
Do you find these kinds of candles, whatever you call them, the Ranker, what was it called?
Renko.
Ranko. Do you find
Custom.
them
These are,
so much
yeah.
easier to work with? I mean, they seem simpler, like it's all green and then red tells you you're out kind of thing if you're going long. Is it
Yeah, and one
easier
of
to
the
work with than candles?
I like them for day trading. I wouldn't use them for swing trading because I prefer to swing trade daily charts where you have one bar a day. For swing trading, this would be very hard because you can't get enough data to back test the amount of trades you need, and also you don't have a certain amount of time. Like one of these bars could sit here for an hour, or it could literally be 10 bars in half a second faster than you could blink. It has nothing to do with time. It has to do with price range. And so you learn how to work with that too. And for day trading, it's great. Like you find the sweet spot. This particular session took longer, but I don't think anyone would mind spending a little overtime riding this all the way up, right? By the time it stopped out up here, it was 10:52. So literally, it was a 2-hour session, double the amount of time I'd normally want to trade in a session. But because this set up like 3 minutes before the hour, but it is what it is. Whereas then the next day, just to give you a sense of, hit your goals, done, turn off your computer. Don't just sit on your chair and nurse your hemorrhoids all day long. You don't need to do that. Go live your best life, right? So now the next day we just get to that 850. So we don't want to cheat. This is part of building belief in something, is that you want to, when you're learning this, you want to react on the right edge of the chart so you can think things through, right? So we're still waiting for our first trade, and it comes here. It's a short. See? And there's your entry and your stop. And it another thing I work into my strategies is a thing called spotlight technology. And this is a thing I created on one of my strategies close to 10 years ago. Whereas if you're in a long trade, all the bars turn green. If you're in a short trade, all the bars turn red. And if you're flat, all the bars are gray. So I usually use that. It's not actually on now because it's just red and green at this point, but it's a really great way to quickly test the plan because you could see the trade so quickly. But anyway, this gets short, right? Remember, target 2 is the main objective. It comes down. I already taught you the strategy. It hit target 1, the stop moved, locked in a tick, hit the yellow dot, stops starting to trail, and then it came down and hit target 2. And you can see that these are very accurate. Look at target 3, just missed by 1 tick. Remember, the immediate past predicts the immediate future. So the immediate past gave us the trade setup. It was a specific pattern that the strategy identified. The immediate future are the targets we're trying to achieve. And that's exactly what then happened. And so we hit the goals, and with one trade, we're one and done, and it's another winning session. Right? So then we go to today's session. And here we are trying to find that start time again. And you have a possible long. It's at 9:22. So it's kind of been a slow market. Took almost a half hour to get the first trade. And it triggers in. Took a few bars, but finally triggers in. Taught you the whole strategy already. It came up. Missed target 1 by 1 tick. So the stop didn't move. Still here. Looks like it's going to stop out, and then it comes up, and then it hits target 1, and then the stop moves up, and then it hits the yellow dot right there, and it starts to trail, and it hits target 2 again, and it's one and done, and then it comes off and basically stops out. And that's it. That was today's session. And it's the same plan. It's running it like a business day in and day out, and you could become very disciplined with this if you don't overthink things, if you believe in it. And if you see that what this results in over time, then why would you want to change it, right? Your job becomes running the plan, not worrying about whether trades win or lose. Trades will win and trades will lose. A 90% winning strategy is still going to lose 10 times in a row at some point. What are you going to do then? Throw it out? No, it's a 90% winning strategy, right? But if you don't go through these steps to acquire the belief in it, you probably will quit. You probably won't even get to the 10 losses in a row. You'll quit way before. And then the next 90% winners that come, which would have exploded the account in the stratosphere, you're not going to enjoy that because you've already quit. You see, that's what most people trying to trade do. That's what I try
You
to.
yourself, on the whole, prefer to swing trade. So you're looking at the daily, the weekly, possibly even the monthly, right?
Yeah, so swing trading is a similar technique. This is a day trade. I like the swing trade because it takes very little time, and then the money's working while you're living your life. The trade's doing its thing, and you're not imposing your feelings on it because you're not even paying attention to it. It's all set up in advance to operate. So let's just pretend that this is, let's just go back to this winning trade for a second. And let's say this sets up on, name a stock. I don't know. Tesla, big in the news, let's just say, right? And so you would basically buy an option that's slightly in the money. And when the stock comes up and hits the entry, you've told your broker, if the stock hits this price, then buy this option, right? Then once that happens, you're going to tell the broker again, if the price hits one of these targets, however many options you bought, wherever you want to exit, if it hits the target, sell the option. Or if it hits the stop, sell the option and then cancel the other side of the trade. Like you have two handles, a target and a stop. It's called a bracket order, right? An order sends order cancels order. So when it hits one, you exit and cancel the stop. Or if it hits the stop, you sell it at a small loss and cancel the targets. And you have that all set up. And so it just becomes this routine. And so this could be, XYZ widget company, whatever it is. I mean, obviously, we're going to want to focus on building a roster of stocks where every single symbol is tested and proven that we've acquired the belief in. And then you don't have to hunt for opportunity day in and day out. You look at the same chart every day. So it might be a daily chart. So let me show you. Here's an example. Because travel's a big thing with the backpack trader, with my group, we were looking at some travel stocks, right? Carnival Cruises, Royal Caribbean. Well, Carnival Cruises is a really good one. This actually shows you the spotlight technology too, because we're flat here. Everything's gray, right? When it was short, everything was red. When it was long, everything was green. And it's exactly how I showed you. And this is using automation to help back test so that we get a performance report that shows you what your profit factor is, your winning percentage, your average net profit per trade, drawdown information, stuff like that. And here's a short right there. And so it says enter at 25.30. So you'd buy a slightly in the money put option with a lot of time because we're never going to hold the option to expiration. Even on a losing trade, this one got short. It was a loser and it stopped out. It loses just a tiny fraction because we're buying with so much time that the option still has a lot of value. So we sell it at a small loss and recover a lot of that premium. So it really goes straight to your risk reward ratios and your bottom line when your losses are very small and very controlled. And then your winners are double and triple percentage gains from 20 to 80, 90% winners to 100% or more is how much you make based on the cost of that option. That's a great way to trade, right? You make these huge percentage returns with this very small percentage risks.
Have you identified where you make most of your money? I mean, is it through, commodities and commodities and Forex, or is it more options, stocks, that kind of thing?
Boy, that's a good question. I mean, I make money with both. Yeah. They're both unique because when you're day trading, you can only go so large, right? I mean, there's certain markets you could trade to really big sizes like the S&P, the ES, but it's very difficult to trade that market and it's costly too. Crude oil, you can't trade to infinite size, but with stocks and options, you can get very large. Like this particular Carnival Cruises has already traded over 6 million shares today, right? And there are some that are trading, 20 million or more shares. And if you're trading a market that large where the options are very liquid, then you can get very large in size. So as you grow your account, you can get to a much larger size, swing trading stocks and trading Forex probably than you could day trading futures.
And are you trading options more than, just buying and selling as a CFD? I don't know, I can't remember if you have CFDs in the States, but
We don't, but I know
no, that's
I
what
know
I
what
thought.
they're,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, are you mostly getting your big gains through the options trading?
Totally. So
Yeah.
like, for example, this one here, you could see, again, it's that idea of the immediate past predicted the immediate future. You can see it hitting these targets, and then it stopped out at the trailer right there. If I remember correctly, that one trade, it took, a few weeks. It made in the 80% profit range. So the cost of the option and then what you make on it was probably an 80% plus profit on the one trade, right? I mean, you can make 10% a year, you have a career on Wall Street. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I
exactly.
would say
I was going to
it's
say.
80% or so on the one trade. And I'm just pulling it out of memory, but I've got a lot of charts. I just don't have them available where I can show you the results of certain trades where you can see, oh, it hit target one. Didn't seem very hard to get there. Took a day or two and made, 27%. And then target two, 46%. Then target three, you're up in the 80s. Sometimes it'll be even more. So they're great trades. And then when it loses, you're not losing the whole cost. You're only losing a fraction of the cost. So you could see it's a great way to go.
Have you ever gone through a phase of continuous setbacks and then somehow had to rethink, or just
Yeah.
yeah? And
Yeah.
how did you get back on board, on track?
Well, I mean, it happened mostly early on when I didn't understand these ideas. I didn't know anything about trade plans. I didn't know anything about acquiring belief. I always talk about the three-legged stool of trading, right? If you take one leg away, the stool topples over, right? So one leg is your methodology, your technique, the painting by numbers, learning how to do that. The second leg is your money management. A great trader can make money with a mediocre trade strategy or trade plan, and someone who's ill-equipped and hasn't gone through a process to learn these steps will lose money even with the proverbial 90% winning great strategy, right? So money management, of course, plays a key role. And then the third leg, of course, is the trader psychology, and that's that figuring out how to transform yourself from a person trying to trade into what I call the CEO of your trading business, right? So you have those three legs. They all three work together, but without one, the stool topples over. But what good is a stool if you can't put it down on a firm foundation, right? If you put it on a hill of gravel or quicksand or whatever, that's no good. I don't care how strong your stool is. So what is that foundation? Well, it's the belief you have in your method. You have to believe in it in order to pull the trigger on the right edge of the chart without knowing what's going to happen next. If you haven't spent the necessary time to acquire the belief properly, the odds of you succeeding are probably nil to none. There probably are no odds of succeeding because you're going to end up just quitting, probably with less money in this area.
So one of the things that stands out for me, at least, about your success is you're very, very methodical and even in every aspect of the game, if you will. Like you described, you actually broke that down to three legs, if you like, on a stool. Most people wouldn't do that. Um, it's something you seem to have almost by nature, or am I wrong? Is it something you've had to acquire?
Yeah, totally. Believe me, I wasn't born with this, and I think I'm in a unique position because I called a live trade room for 18 straight years. Not too many people can say that. There's some who are out there that have, not too many. We're a small club. And so I have this unique point of view, right? Because not only am I trading, of course, but I'm also having to teach others how to trade. It's my business. I didn't intend it to be. The old business I was in that was killing me when I first started to trade, like my 20-year anniversary, was to walk away from that business. And I ended up, now the backpack trader is my business, right? So I just feel like I've been able to, use the things I've learned over the years. I have a unique point of view. but a unique background too. Not too many people have spent the kind of time I've spent.
And you're still teaching, right?
Yeah. In fact, I did a live session yesterday. And can I plug my book?
You can plug your book, absolutely, of course.
Day Trading Quick Start Guide. And it's got over 1,000 5-star reviews on Amazon. And in fact, Book Authority sent me an email last year saying that they considered it one of the top trading books of all time. So was very humbled by that. I never would have imagined. But we are offering it. We have a digital download. It's usually $20, but we're giving it away at a 75% discount. So for under $5, someone can download that book. And I think you could put you got the link in the notes, I guess. Anyone can reach out to me at troy@backpacktrader.com. And then we're hosting a quick start boot camp, actually starting this Saturday. I'm not sure when this podcast will air, but every month we do these quick start boot camps that model the book and help new traders or even experienced traders who just need to kind of regroup, how to get started on the right track. And it's all focused on the concepts of trading less and living better and creating that backpack trader lifestyle of freedom through the use of well created and proven trade plans and how to do it. So it's a unique point of view. There's not too many people that I think kind of explain or to teach it in the way that I do. I have my unique ways of doing it. But that's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Troy, thanks so much for being on, and I'll let you go to your next podcast.
Nicholas, it was a pleasure, and love to do it again anytime if you'd like to get into it next time. I promise I won't schedule anything behind, because I think you and I could probably talk trading all day long and never get tired of it.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.